December 26th. Jordan, would you start us off with a roll call vote, please?
Please respond by stating present. Councilmember Ronayne,
Present.
Faubourg,
Present.
Liebelt, Reif,
Present.
Johnson,
Present.
Reinbold,
Present.
Langer, Norvstrup,
Present.
Mayor Schoeneman.
Present. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. We do have two modifications to our printed agenda tonight, so I would take a motion with the two amendments. The first is to add an item for a fire protection and monitoring system agreement. And then the second is to put off our item F under new business and to add an executive session to discuss some of those details which have changed since we've created this item on our agenda. So if someone would make a motion to approve the agenda with those two amendments.
I would, but I'm confused on the second one. Is there an F under new business? I only have an E.
The new agenda has an F, which is,
Then I will move it.
And I will second.
I've got a motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilman Johnson. Just to clarify, the two changes would be first to add under new business an item to enter into an agreement for fire protection and monitoring for our new dome. And the second item to be changed would be to remove our possible approval of the WINS Memorandum of Understanding and to move to add an executive session to the end of this meeting by which we can discuss the contractual matters within that Memorandum of Understanding. I've got a motion from Councilman Ronayne, a second from Councilman Johnson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed,
Aye.
and opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next is the approval of minutes. We've got 2 minutes to approve. The first is our regular city council meeting, which took place on December 18th. The second is a short special session meeting that we had the following day on December 19th about a wine license. Take a motion.
Move to approve the minutes.
I've got a motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilman Norvstrup. All in favor, please say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. Motion carries. I didn't see anyone signed up to speak at our open forum, so we will move along to our consent calendar where we have 7 items of routine city business. I would take a motion to approve our consent calendar items.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilman Ronayne. Anything from the council on any of these particular items?
One item, if I may.
Go ahead.
Eric, would you be able to ask Ken if in the future we could get the entire plot that we're approving rather than just page 1?
I didn't catch halfway through, sorry.
I'm sorry. Could you ask Ken that if in the future we could get the entire plat that we're being asked to approve rather than just page 1?
All right. Thank you, Councilman Ronayne. So we've got our motion, we've got our second. Any other feedback from the council or questions or comments to be made as it relates to any of these consent calendar items? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have several items of old business. The first is our possible second reading and final adoption of an ordinance which sets the fees and charges for certain services provided by the City of Aberdeen for the upcoming year, 2024. Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a second here, sorry. We have one modification. Since first reading, we realized we omitted a price listed for de-icing liquid. De-icing liquid would fall under equipment rates, and the 2024 proposed rate should be $20 per gallon. The 2023 fee is $18 per gallon. Otherwise, there are no changes to the ordinance as presented, and staff recommends approval.
Move approval with that modification.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Renee and a second from Councilman Reinbold. Jordan, I've got a question for you real quick, and maybe this is more of a question for Bron as a procedural thing. I'd received some feedback on the pricing for the dome entrance fee, and one of the suggestions was that we add a tier of the pricing for kind of a all-you-can-eat buffet style like we do with the summer access pass to the water park. Now, I spoke to the Parks and Rec folks that were in charge of our setting pricing, and they're giving it some consideration. What is the procedure if we wanted to, or if they agree to add that into the future? Do we have to amend this entire ordinance, or how does a fee like that change on a one-off basis?
So, I think the short answer is yes, you would have to amend the ordinance like we do with just a supplement, recognizing that they've changed the fees. A few years ago, we began to incorporate by reference within our fee schedule ordinance, the parks fee schedule as well, to give those the power of the law that we have behind those. So if there was a violation or a challenge to those fees, we could show that they were adopted and part of our ordinance. So if this council is encouraging the Parks Board to look at those fees, maybe reconsider some of those fees, and if the Parks Board decides that they want to make that change, then yeah, we would do a short little ordinance supplementing our fee schedule like we do.
Okay, sounds good. We'll look for that, and we'll see how it goes for them with the fees that they had proposed in the meantime. Any questions from the council as it relates to this second reading or that amendment that was made by our city finance director? All right, Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote for our second and final reading?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Fulmer.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Norvstrup.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye. Motion carries. Next, we've got a second reading and final adoption for an ordinance which supplements the existing 2023 annual budget to appropriate funds for various unanticipated projects, activities, and expenditures. Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes to this ordinance since first reading, and staff recommends approval.
Move to approve. Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson and a second from Councilman Reinbold. Any questions from our council as it relates to this second reading or any of the items that that fall within these appropriations of funds? All right, Jordan?
Councilmember Norvstrup.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Fauberg.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye. Motion does carry. Our last item of old business is our second reading and final adoption of an ordinance which supplements the 2023 budget for Parks, Rec, and Forestry Department activities for this calendar year 2023. Jordan?
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes since first reading, and staff recommends approval.
Move to approve. Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Reinbold, second. Councilman Johnson, anyone from the council have any final words on this before our final reading? Jordan?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Fauberg.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Norvstrup.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Moving along to our new business, we've got a possible approval of a resolution titled 23-1205R, which authorizes an application for financial assistance, authorizing the execution and submittal of the application, and designating an authorized representative to certify and sign payment requests. We have a delegate from our NECA contingency here to walk us through some of that. It looks as though, why don't you make sure the little green light is on, and then you've got the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Shoneman. Ted Dickey with Northeast Council of Governments in front of the Commission tonight to discuss a resolution for the city to apply for funding through the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources for funding to help with the construction of a new water tower on the east side of town to help out with the industrial park, the water needs at the industrial park out there. The city has already applied for and received a $2 million grant from the Economic Development Administration. This funding package is roughly $13 million total to construct the new water tower. $2 million from EDA. The city's going to come up with roughly $1 million of local match to help pay for it. Then $10 million from the South Dakota Department of Agriculture and Natural Resources will help make up the balance of that funding to help construct the new tower out there. What I have for you tonight is a resolution needs to be authorized, which will authorize the city manager to not only sign the application, but also subsequent documents like environmental review, drawing requests, that sort of thing. I also have provided the council with a worst case scenario, and I will be back here at the January 8th meeting again to discuss what this worst case scenario is. But we're applying for $10 million in funding. We're not applying for grant funding. We're not applying for loan funding. We're just applying for funding. It's up to the state to make a determination of what that funding breakdown is in the end, whether it's a grant, a loan, or a mix thereof. But at the end of it, you will have money in place to cover the balance of the project funding that's needed. So I do have just that breakdown sheet I wanted to just go through. Again, this is worst case scenario if the state only gives you loan. Right now, the current rates for the $10 million loan for DANR is 3.5% at a term of 20 years. The breakdown of that would be the monthly payback amount would be $57,995.97. The yearly payback would be $695,951.64. And then there's a 110% debt capacity number that needs to be included. So the state requires the city to collect an additional 10% up and above what is required for payback. They do that for their bonding, so they can get a good bonding rate. So the 110% debt capacity is $765,546.80. Again, if the state were to give you just loan, that's your what your annual payback amount would need to be that you need to collect in. If DNR only approves a loan, the city would need to increase their rates by $6.75, which would generate $767,394, which is just slightly higher than that $765 they require you to collect. So if the city applies and the state gives you only loan, the city would need to increase $6.75 in order to afford just that loan. It may be a little bit less than that depending on what the city's collecting right now, but I have to present a worst case scenario tonight, and I'll be giving you the same worst case scenario here at the January 8th meeting, which is the official public meeting. So I'll answer any questions that we have tonight. Like I said, we're going to do this again on January 8th, but for tonight's purposes, the resolution is what we need to have passed. And I'll answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Ted. So the $13 million, how rock solid would you suspect that number is? I know that we started with a much smaller number before all this COVID madness.
You're asking me a great question that I'm not able to answer. I'm not an engineer. I just helped put together the applications. I understand that, yes, the cost estimate has increased since we received the grant here probably a year and a half ago. We've had some issues as far as trying to locate where the tower is going to be because of height restrictions as the location of the airport, because of the cone shape that we need to go out. I know the engineer, Helms, has sent out for aviation requirements to see if the locations that they had tried a few times would meet the aviation requirements for the FAA, and those came back as negative the first couple of times. Now that we have an FAA approved area that it will be constructed on, and the city has an agreement in place with the landowner. Now we're going to move forward, and with that time frame, prices have increased, and so we're applying for the funding to pay for it.
Thank you, Ted. Any other questions from the council? And in terms of how the DANR typically handles these things, I know you're presenting worst case scenario. What are your estimates of probability of receiving some of this money in terms of grant? Better than bad?
If I had to guess, looking at the city's rates, the current rates are, and the state tries to level the playing field by saying what a community spends per 5,000 gallons of water. So the current city rates are at $35.50 per 5,000 gallons. By increasing it, if the state only gives a loan by $6.75, the total proposed rate increase would be $42.25. We've seen the state be taking communities up to that 50 to 60 range before they give them what they call subsidy, or in essence grant. So I'd say the likelihood probably not very good. However, I don't get to make those determinations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your insight into that. And if there's no other questions from the council, I would, Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
I'll move to approve.
Oh, I guess we need our
Second.
motions. Sorry about that, guys. Gotta put the cart before the horse here. We've got a motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilman Reinbold. And now, if there are no further questions, Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote?
Councilmember Ronayne.
Aye.
Foberg.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Norvstrup.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Dickey. Appreciate you and your work on this project.
Thank you. I'll be back on January 8th.
Spreading the cheer.
Next, we've got our possible approval of the request for the Aberdeen Fire and Rescue Fire Chief and the EMS Billing Specialist to declare certain unpaid ambulance accounts uncollectible and to allow the fire department to write these things off. It's a bit of an annual tradition around here. Chief Wide, what are we looking at for the damages this year?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, this is something we do on an annual basis, and this year we're looking at $211,477.66 of delinquent accounts to be written off. $45,399.20 of that are accounts that are uncollectible due to deaths, small amounts, or Medicaid limitations. The remaining amount, $166,078.39, we wish to turn over to a collection agency for further collection.
Move to approve.
I've got a motion from Councilman Reinbold and a second from Councilman Norvstrup. Does anyone have any questions for our fire chief as it relates to these uncollectible funds? Go ahead, Justin.
I ask you every year, but how does it compare to last year?
So, great question. Last year in 2022, we wrote off $385,515, so considerably less than last year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, if there's no further questions, Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Norvstrup.
Aye.
Reinbold.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Reif.
Aye.
Foberg.
Aye.
Ronayne.
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate it. As always, next we've got our possible first reading of an ordinance 23-1202, which designates a portion of the public right-of-way as 5th Avenue Northwest. And in Ken's absence, I will turn things over to Eric. Eric, thank you for joining us here tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This ordinance is requested in order to change a name of a portion of public right-of-way from Highway 281 North to 5th Avenue Northwest. This area would be just west of D's Catering, all the way to where the bypass connects back in, kind of over by Wiley Park. Brown County Communications had brought to our attention some addressing inconsistencies in that area. These could cause potential life safety issues with ambulance, fire, and law enforcement being able to arrive at an emergency. In order to eliminate potential confusion, it's necessary to rename this portion of 281 North to 5th Avenue Northwest. Staff recommends approval of this ordinance.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Ronayne and a second from Councilman Northstrup. Any questions for Eric Miller as he stands in for Planning and Zoning Director Ken Hubbard? Go ahead, Councilman Johnson.
Just curious why this is coming forward now. These addresses would have been known for many years.
So when that bypass was finished, this was supposed to happen then. One reason or another, it got kicked down the road for the balance of 2 decades. When I think it came back to the table when Dollar General was being constructed, and they were assigned a 5th Avenue Northwest address, or I'm sorry, a 281 North address originally, and then somebody at the county had put that over by Rolling Hills, and so that's where this potential issue, where you could see, could come to light if there's a robbery or somebody having a heart attack at Dollar General. Ambulance shows up on the bypass over by 281. There's nothing there. Not a good situation. So we kind of got the ball rolling on this, and there wasn't a whole lot of address changes that needed to be made. Actually, most of them, it was just the number could stay the same, change the street name. So it didn't have as big of an impact on the business owners in that area as we thought it might.
If I could also add to, beginning in October, the Planning and Zoning Department, Community Development Department, did notify the affected property owners whose addresses would be changed, to give them plenty of time to appear if they wanted to oppose, but also to prepare their businesses, their customers, whatever, for the possible address change. So the development department has been way ahead on this, trying now to correct this, and has done a really good job in letting property owners know about that.
And as Eric mentioned, well, it seems like a lot of these businesses aren't 281 facing. They were on side streets for their addressing.
I think there was only one that was, I think it takes its access off of East Drive. It'd be the old Carpet Max building, or Floor Max, whichever the one is, directly across from the U-Haul building. So they ended up, we figured since their frontage, I guess Heppers as well, their frontage is facing 281, or now hopefully 5th Avenue Northwest. We gave them that address rather than where their access comes off of East Drive. I think for their business listings, it's more findable. Most people probably would say East Drive. I don't know where that's at.
Right.
But 5th Northwest or 281 was a lot more accessible as far as typing it into Google or just going off the street.
Thank you for your work on that, Eric. Appreciate that. Any other questions from the council?
Please, Mayor.
Go ahead, Councilman Johnson.
So does this align and unify with GPS, or will changes be needed? Do we need to notify Google or anything like that to be consistent?
I think that's done through the address change process. That's probably a question that our GIS technician who does our addressing would maybe be able to answer more accurately than I can. I presume that these businesses will update their business listings on Google, which I don't know if that if Google is the be-all end-all as far as your GPS, how you get there when you punch it into your phone. I'm not 100% sure where that connection actually takes place.
Sure. Yeah, I'll be honest, I have a few misgivings. I'm thinking of the effects on customers and patrons. I presume, for example, that Village Bowl will keep their current address.
They
But-
they were addressed off of 8th Avenue Northwest, curiously. So they'll now have, I believe we kept the same building number. It's 1314, 1312, somewhere in that range. And then it'll be a 5th Avenue address. That's where their legal access is.
Sure. You can understand the potential confusion for the layman who
Right.
understands that this is north of 8th Avenue. The number should be higher than 8th, but it's going to present as
Correct.
5th, which is
So I think we decided to take that whole stretch and keep it as 5th Northwest because it might add more confusion if you had it 5th Northwest until it angles far enough or crosses a certain threshold, and then we have to call it, I don't even know, we'd call it 14th Street or whatever the north-south designator would be. So kind of as a way to
Councilman
make it.
Johnson Parkway, I think we could.
We could.
suddenly I'm on board.
Yes. I think it just to try to keep it consistent for that entire stretch to have one name rather than halfway through the road. It's all of a sudden I'm no longer on 5th. I'm on, X Street or whatever the number might be.
Yeah, so I appreciate the listing here. It's, I'm sure it's thorough, and a lot of these will not be significantly affected. I can see a few that, would be in their stationery or different publications, yellow pages, websites, things like that would need to be updated.
Yeah,
But
and that's-
you've apprised them with advance notice.
Right. That's why we started this in October, and we kind of chatted about maybe fast tracking and ripping the Band-Aid off, doing it right away. And we thought, well, geez, they're going to have publication materials, marketing, all that stuff that needs to be changed. We should give them ample time, and it's by the time this would be official, it would be the better part of 3 months to get everything kind of lined up and changed over to the new address.
So in sum, then, the main intent and objective here is to provide less confusion for first responders and 911.
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's an important thing. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any other questions? All right. Being that it is an ordinance, I will take a roll call vote. Jordan, when you're ready.
Councilmember Ronayne,
Aye.
Foberg,
Aye.
Reif,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Norvstrup,
Aye.
Mayor Shoneman.
Aye, motion carries. Next, we've got the possible approval of a pay request, number 3, which is the final pay request and a change order title number 1 for Project Traffic 2023 Brown County 19 and 8th Avenue Northeast for our traffic signal improvements to Ringenberg Electric, $151,455.86 for the pay request, as well as a change order which totals $2,639.50. Robin, is this yours?
Stewart's.
It says presented by Robin. I thought I had read, but I could be mistaken. Go ahead, Stu. Would you go ahead and run us through the details of this payment and change order?
Thank you, Mayor. So this signal, you may recall, is one of the ones where we were waiting on equipment for months and months and months. And we did get it up and running here at the end of October. And I've been through that intersection a number of times, and it's kind of almost like that light's been there forever, because it's just like you don't, it's not confusing, and I think it works really well. Mm-hmm. It's one of the ones that we have the new video detection system on. We have a camera that detects the vehicles coming up to the intersection, and it works really well. So everything's working great. The pay request amount is just for the final pieces of the puzzle, basically, to get the thing put together. And we just had some varying quantities of wire, and that's why the change order was there. So it's all functioning, and I think it works great.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson, second Councilman Renane. Stu, about how many dollars were we all in by the time that the dust settled and we had a functioning light?
I want to say it was around 250,000.
Yeah, it was $250,000.
We can look here and find out for sure. Yeah, 258,000.
Sounds good. I was thinking that maybe it was a little bit worse than that for some reason or other, but are there any questions from the council? Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote on this one, being that it's an ordinance?
Councilmember Norvstrup,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Foberg,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion carries. Next, we've got our possible first reading of ordinance 23-1207, which authorizes the issuance and sale of bonds for the Tax Increment Financing District 39 with a maximum allowable issuance of $5,297,279. And I see we've got a member of our audience here. Maybe you could answer some questions if it comes to it for us. Jordan, would you kick us through the big stuff?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. This is a ordinance that authorizes the issuance of bonds in the amount of $5,297,279 for TIF 39. TIF 39 is the northernmost, the newest Happy North. I think it's Happy Phase 2 North. This is part of this bond ordinance is part of the project plan as submitted and also part of the developer agreement. This is how they will pay for the project. It'll pay for things like streets and other infrastructure. Staff recommends approval as it's presented, and Darren will be available for more specific questions about the project if necessary.
I'll move to approve the issuance of the bonds.
Got a motion from Councilman Renane, a second from Councilman Norvstrup. And so in terms of the procedure there, Jordan, do we take out the bond itself or can their entity take out the bond?
So we authorize them to seek and obtain bonds.
Okay, that's what I was double checking. I thought that was the case. Any questions for Finance Director Jordan McQuillan or Darren back there with Happy? Very good. Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote on the first reading of this ordinance, please?
Councilmember Ronayne,
Aye.
Foberg,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Norvstrup,
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion does carry. Thanks for joining us, Darren. Appreciate you being here. Next, we'll kick over to our review and approval of our claims and payroll. We've got bills. Oh. I guess we will kick ahead one fewer spaces to our amended item from our agenda, in which we have an item which will authorize the City of Aberdeen to enter into agreements with Western State Fire Protection Company for the installation of both fire sprinkler protection system as well as a fire alarm monitoring system, an aggregate amount of $103,130. Monitoring will constitute $55,800 of this total. Fire sprinklers in the bathroom will be $19,990, and fire sprinkler systems in the shop will be $27,430.
I will move to approve it.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson, a second from Councilman Reinbold. Does anyone have any questions as it relates to this fire protection expense in the PC Dome? And this was going to allow us to go from fire protection rating of 300 people to 800 people.
That's right.
Give or take.
Yep.
Well worth the cost in terms of getting events into this community. I know that we've got a few coming up. Councilman Johnson.
And just to clarify, these will be annual.
No, this is a one-time fee for the installation.
Just
There
for
will
install.
be a monitoring fee that you'll pay or an inspection fee to make sure they keep it going, but
Okay.
nothing in that range. No, nothing near that costly in the future.
Thank you.
And this is a system that ties into all of the existing systems the city has for their other facilities as well.
And then just to clarify on a couple of points that we had discussed earlier, it's the little red levers that a person pulls if there's a fire throughout the system. Is that correct?
That's part of it. Part of it's the automatic systems that you'd find.
Ron has no idea. As well
Like
as,
this one right over here?
yeah, that's one. Perfect. And directly behind us, yeah, they'll be all over in case of an emergency, as well as the actual sprinkler systems in the physical structures that are permanent. All right, if there's no further questions, Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Norvstrup,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Rife,
Aye.
Fauberg,
Aye.
Ronayne,
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
Aye, motion carries. Now we will kick things over to our review and approval of our claims and payroll. The bill list, of course, is for this week, December 26th, and the pay period that we will be approving this time is for the period of December 17th through the December 30th, as well as our share of Social Security, old age, and survivors insurance, retirement health, and life insurance. I would take a motion to pay the bills.
Move to approve bills, claims, and payroll.
Second.
Got a motion from Councilman Johnson and a second from Councilman Reinbold. Jordan, would you give us a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Ronayne,
I abstain as to payment to Neil and Joanne Bellica, but cast my vote as an aye on all other matters.
Councilmember Fauberg,
I abstain from any payments in Dakota Bank. Otherwise, aye.
Councilmember Rife,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Reinbold,
Aye.
Norvstrup,
Aye.
Mayor Shonneman.
I will abstain to the payment to House of Glass and to Sewer Duct, and the rest aye, and the motion does carry. Next, we've got our city manager's report. Robin, what have you got for us this evening?
Something that I wanted to make sure you were aware of. At the beginning of the year, there will be a slight change to the payroll, and there are, in the past, in recent past, we had been limiting our newer employees, less than 2 years. They were not getting the step increase, and so they had to wait, some of them up to 3 years before they got that step increase. It's my belief that we're low already on the low end, and that it only makes sense for us to allow for them to receive the same step increase that all the other employees are getting. It will positively affect 43 employees of your 280. So it's a small increase relatively to payroll, and I think it's a positive step to try to help retain employees and not lose them in those first few years. So that will be a change that we're going to be doing. I thought we also would have Stu talk about the signal at 3rd and Dakota that is now operational, and I'd like to just have him walk through what we discussed on the snow removal process for this particular snow removal. This was a bugger, and I just want Stu to walk through it and give you a feel for what they think about. So, Stu.
Thanks. So 3rd and Dakota, again, long wait for equipment there, but that got up and running last week, Wednesday or Thursday, and I've been through it a couple times. There again, another one of those camera systems that we implemented there, and it works very well. I think the addition of the turning lanes on 3rd Avenue has really stopped the bottleneck that kind of occurred there when you'd have one person wanting to turn left and it would stack traffic up, for a block or a block and a half. So we're able to eliminate in large part that issue. So pretty excited to see that finally up and running. That kind of wraps up that whole Dakota Street project there, which, believe it or not, started about 9 or 10 months ago. So that's that. Snow removal. ended up doing emergency routes starting at about 6 o'clock this morning, and there was a lot of deliberation because there was just so many unknowns about this, the nature of this snowfall. We didn't really know how much snow we were going to get. We weren't sure how much we had gotten. The Weather Service had reported to us that they were having difficulty with their snow measuring equipment, so we were having a hard time really discerning how much snow there was. And I think there was probably a lot of variability as we went throughout town anyway, just based on wind patterns and how much rain. And that was the other kind of kicker for the whole thing was how much rain were we going to get and how cold was it going to get? Was it going to really be that ice storm that they were predicting? And so we ultimately, yesterday when we were having our little conference about this, we decided we would start off with emergency routes and then touch up neighborhoods as we thought it was necessary. Well, as we were doing emergency routes this morning, we really became apparent that in order to make the drainage work around town, we were going to have to move into the residential areas and do removals there. Even though we knew that that was going to be something that was going to be painful for residents because we're, putting this wet, slushy, nasty stuff in their driveways. And we have heard people have been unhappy with us for doing that, but I think long term this was the right decision for us to make. Had we not done this, you look at the forecast and it's going to get cold. We're going to have low temperatures by the weekend that are below 10 degrees. When this stuff freezes, it's going to freeze on top of the inlets. It's going to freeze in driveways, and it's going to be there until we get springtime and temperatures warm back up. So I think a little bit of pain today and tomorrow probably was the right decision to make. Just the way things worked out, we've been doing all the work with our own crews here, and we've decided to, we haven't brought in any of the contractors or any additional blades or trucks or anything. And because we don't really feel like this snow is going to be a good candidate to use blowers on for the downtown area, we're going to do it all with loaders, which means we don't need as many trucks as we normally would use because it just is going to go slower. So just talked to Jeremy right before the meeting started here, and they were finished with all the residential streets at that point, and we're working on finishing up cleaning out, hauling out parking lots here downtown, and are getting set to transition into starting removals downtown. So we're not gonna wait till 10 o'clock to get that done. Our employees' feelings were they're here already. If we send them home for 4 or 5 hours, they're not gonna sleep anyway, and that's just gonna push off the end of it for another 4 or 5 hours. So we're gonna move directly into removing snow downtown. I want to be clear about this. Because of the nature of this snow, we're not going to be able to use the blowers on it. So that means that we really don't have a good way to clean the snow off the sidewalks on 6th Avenue and 2nd Street. And while that is not something that technically we have to do, we usually do it because it makes for a lot cleaner process. And so that's going to be one of the downsides to just the nature of the snow, is that's really going to be almost impossible to accomplish that part of it. So if folks have issues or concerns about that, they certainly can call starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning and just let us know, and we'll try to accommodate as many folks as we can within the kind of the boundaries of our operation. Anybody have any questions, specifics, or anything?
So how do they usually do 6th Avenue and 2nd?
So generally what happens is when we go out and do an emergency route, those are both emergency routes, that snow gets pushed off and it gets piled up onto the sidewalks. When we do our removal process, we go back in, we take that snow that's on the sidewalks and move it back out into the street, and then push all that snow to the middle of the street, and we use the blowers to load trucks and haul it away. Because we can't use the blowers, we really, if we, 6th Avenue is 4 miles long. The streets downtown on Main Street and Lincoln and Washington they're 6 blocks long. So in order for us to literally use loaders to haul all that snow away, we'd be at it for 2 weeks probably, and it doesn't make
Sure.
a lot of sense to try to devote that much time and resources to that process.
Thanks, Stu. I have a better understanding of where that snow winds up going. Any other questions? Go ahead,
Thank you,
Councilman
Mayor.
Johnson.
Jumping back to the Dakota Street, I'm also a fan of those cameras as an accessory. What do they add to the cost of the project and equipment?
So it kind of depends on the configuration of the system, but what we have found is, the camera itself is going to be $20,000 to $30,000 for that piece of equipment. But what we have found is, especially if we're retrofitting an intersection like we did at Melgard and Lawson, or up on 19 and 8th, where you have to saw the loops in, that it actually is less expensive to do the camera system, because we're not spending all the time and labor to install those loops where you're physically cutting the squares into the pavement and then putting wires in there, and then long range for us, those loops are very susceptible to freeze thaw with movement of soil and pavement, and you end up replacing those over time. With these camera systems, you certainly will. Camera has a finite life; it's only going to last so long. But it's going to be a lot longer time period than what those loops will serve. So it's maintenance wise. We were very concerned that these things would end up with a lot of snow on them, and you would have visibility problems, or fog, or those kind of things would really cause us problems. We've really not found that that's the case. So they've turned out to be a pretty tremendous asset for our traffic control department. We're just in the fledgling stages of it, but we're starting to we have video feed from these, so you can sit in your office and look at the video feed, and it really helps you get a feel for how traffic is progressing. And we're hoping that we can expand the use of these. We have recording capabilities, so there's issues at an intersection, we should be able to go back and look at those things, and hopefully we can help the police department out a little bit sometimes. So I think you'll see that as we go through intersections, we're going to start installing a lot more of these instead of the traditional loop systems.
Great info. Thank you.
Thank you, Stu. I appreciate all the information on the city manager's report. I would like to thank everybody that took part in our snow removal process. I know it's a lot of man hours and a lot of difficult labor, so thanks to our crew who did the hard work on that. So I would take a few moments at this point to clear the room so that we can move into our executive session and discuss that contractual matter that we had alluded to at the beginning of our meeting.